I'm Kristen Denny-Chambers, clarinetist, composer, and founder of Clarinet Playground. This is video number 29 out of 40, going through all of the etudes in Finger Fitness Études Book 2. This one is for Afternoon Tea. Afternoon Tea is dedicated to Shannon Scott. She was my first clarinet professor at the University of Tulsa. At the same time, she was also principal clarinet of the Tulsa Philharmonic Orchestra, which is now the Tulsa Symphony Orchestra. Shannon is Associate Professor of Clarinet, Music History, and a clarinetist for Solstice Wind Quintet at Washington State University School of Music in Pullman, Washington. Since 1991, Scott has been principal clarinet and faculty at the Eastern Music Festival in North Carolina. She's also principal clarinet of the Walla Walla, Washington Symphony, and as part of the Scott Garrison Duo, which is flute and clarinet, she performs and commissions new music for the ensemble. Along with CDs available for the Scott Garrison Duo, she can also be heard on 3 CDs of wind quintet music devoted to composers of the Pacific Rim. My studies with Shannon were quite rigorous in my undergraduate years, although it took me a couple of years to really buy into the whole idea of really practicing and listening to the kinds of details that I listen to now. So Afternoon Tea is dedicated to her because the first piece that I learned for my very first jury was the Weber Variations, and so she really helped me develop a love for theme and variations, and that's basically why this one was chosen for her. Let's take a look at the music. At the bottom of each page in this book, you'll find 1 or 2 practice tips. This one is really important. For the theme only, stretch beats 2 to 3 in measure 1 and other similar places, then play lighter and quicker starting on beat 4. We will go over that in detail a little bit later when we talk about the style and how to perform that. At the top of the page, you'll find 2 finger drills. These are very important also. Make sure you're practicing these as individual studies because these little finger twisters are what is thrown into the etude. So for the first one, C to F sharp, we want to really focus on lifting the thumb because the thumb can be late. It can be sort of a pitfall of that interval. And then when we look at C to G, I think about opening and closing my entire hand on a hinge and trying to just coordinate that movement. And as you lift straight above the keys and come right back down. Lift from the back knuckle, that way you avoid this kind of lifting, and just keep that on a nice curve like you're on a hinge. Now for style and character, this is moderato, rhythmic, and refined, and that goes for all the different sections. Remember the performance tip about stretching, so I will do that now. So at the very beginning, you'll play beats 1 and 2, stretch a little into beat 3, and then right as soon as beat 4 comes along, suddenly you're soft and suddenly you're really quick and light. And you'll just keep repeating that every time you see the measure like measure 1. While the stretching is really meant for the theme only, the more I've played around with this, the more I can see, okay, you could actually apply this to variation 1 as well. So it's up to you how you want to do it. And I think if you do apply the stretching, then you also want to apply the same phrasing from the theme. Otherwise, follow the markings as you see on variation 1. First, I'll play it as written, and then I'll play it with the stretching and the shapes that are in the theme. For rhythm, we're going to see quite a variety. So we have some dotted quarter notes, dotted eighth notes, dotted 8/16ths, other 8th and 16th combinations, 8th notes, stretches of 16th notes, triplets, and 1 scale run of 32nd notes right at the very end. So if we look at measure 1, there's a lot going on there. We have 1, te, ta, 2, te, 3, 4, te, ta, 1, te, 2, te, 3. When you combine that with the stretching, it makes it a little bit more challenging too. Now if we take a look at measure 12, we have 8th notes, and then we have 2/16ths and then an 8th. That's a less common combination, so we want to be ready to count that. 1 te, 2 te, 3. In measure 17, we see the triplets. The entire variation is really built on triplets. So I count those as 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3, 4 lolly, 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3, and so on. When you get to variation 2, you'll find a lot of 16th notes and long stretches of them. So measure 37 is one example of that. I count 16th notes: 1 T theta, 2 T theta, 3 T theta, 4 T theta. In measure 49, we see the 32nd notes, but notice the molto writ. So you have the opportunity to slow down. It's not quite as difficult as it looks, and it's just a C major scale going up. Let's take a look at some areas for special focus. So that beginning line, we're going to come back to that again, of course. Along with the stretch, the rhythmic variety, and the articulation, there's just a lot going on there. Plus, we have the side key, so I want to make sure we mention that. So at the very beginning, we have C, B, C, F, F sharp. So that's going to be your thumb and your bottom two side keys, and then lift everything for the open G. When you get to measure 9 of the theme, which is really like the B section of the theme, we can be more broad and we can have what I like to call an open staccato. Because the tempo is relaxed, it's going to push later, so 16ths are coming later. But with these 8th note staccato, they can have a more open sound. I think ta, ta, instead of like tut, tut. I'm actually going to stop my air more like a puff of air, ta, ta, with really good stomach support still, and have a nice bounce. As we look at variation 1 again, the triplets are there, along with some pretty big finger tangles. So we have C, B, C, F, C, F sharp. That could get you, it could catch you off guard a little bit. And then we come down to measure 2 of that, which is really measure 18, F, G, F, E, D, C, B. Nice and easy there, but then a skip down to G, and then we're going to go down to F sharp and scale back up. And then that comes back again, C, B, C, F sharp, G. That little move could be awkward, so you might want to spend some time there. Measure 25 presents some challenge with the throat A. So we want to be as efficient as we can with our technique as we keep going back and forth to that A. Now we get into variation 2. We have these long 16th note stretches. We want to be very steady with those. We have some large leaps, plus leaps up to the A. So take your time. There's also a chromatic sequence at the end of that first line there. And my staccato is going to be more of a closed staccato or a stopped staccato, where I'm going to keep my tongue against the reed and just open and close while I continue to blow. Measure 41, which is the B section of the theme as it comes back in variation 2, I think is the toughest part because we have this constant going back and forth. G, C, F sharp, C, G, really getting that nice workout of the finger drill. Then finally, measure 49, which we've already talked about, but has the 32nd notes. We want to pace that well, make sure we stretch on the C scale towards the end. This is the only version of this etude in the book, so there's no low C option. However, that final C major scale in the 32nd notes, you could turn that around and go downward to the lowest C if you have a low C instrument to have a nice, cool ending. And now for some final thoughts on this etude. Afternoon Tea really looks deceptively easy, but there are plenty of finger twisters, stylistic choices, and articulation patterns that need some attention. Notice that it stays in the Schallimo register until that final scale up to the third space C. This makes the piece approachable to many players, no matter the level. It's a really fun way to introduce the theme and variation concept to yourself or to your students. I hope you enjoy it. To listen to a beautiful recording of this etude and all other etudes from this book, head over to my website, clarinetplayground.com. Trevor Stewart has recorded all 40 etudes beautifully, and they are available for purchase there on my website. Feel free to join us in the Clarinet Playground group on Facebook where we play and post for each other, and head over to my website at clarinetplayground.com for more fun music and books. Thank you so much. I do not like this read. What happened?